when you look at nuclear power, I always would like to look at it in the context of a diversity of technologies. So let's make the assumption that you've looked at the whole universe of energy technologies and you've come up to the conclusion that in this particular situation, nuclear is appropriate. So let's look at then where you want to appropriately use nuclear. In terms of where nuclear is best applied, I truly believe it is best applied in a baseload situation where the demand is constant. So nuclear sets the tone for a baseload. Now, given the baseload context then, clearly the siting for safety reasons and all that needs to be looked at. But now when you look at the world and its demand, you could almost break it into what I call the centralized industrial commercial complexes. And that's where I think nuclear is best applied. Now, once you get to the more rural areas where demand is much lower, then you may want to look at other than nuclear. I think that Gen 1, Gen 2, sometimes people confuse it. My belief is that Gen 1 and Gen 2 fundamentally are the same, with one exception. One being the fact that it is really the Gen 1 were smaller systems, basically 300 megawatts or so. Gen 2 tends to be the bigger ones, anywhere from 900 and above to greater than 1 gigawatt. Now, clearly, when you move generationally from Gen 1 to Gen 2, all the learnings from the past, that means in improved safety, improved containment, improved backups or metering and all that will be there. So think of Gen 2 as really a bigger version of Gen 1, but with improvements in safety, containment, and perhaps more automated processes. But fundamentally, there's no difference. These tend to be light water reactors and the above. Okay, in the medium term, the question is how you define medium. My belief, realistically, and because I work in a fairly broad area of energy, is that for the near term, we will live in a fossil age. But having said that, my belief is that we have to begin to price carbon because I believe that climate change is a very important issue. So let's say the next 50 years will still be a near term, meaning we will live in a fossil age. Now, to answer the medium term, I want to go back to the long term. In the long term, fossils will end. Now, it could be 100 years, 200 years, or beyond. Or they will get prohibitively expensive. So when that end comes, we will then have basically two options. Basically, renewables, and think of renewables as all manifestations of solar, and then nuclear. But nuclear itself is also a finite source, although if with processing you will get more. So I believe that in the end, in the medium term, as you call it, we need both nuclear and renewables. So I would say that, again, in the context of the first question, nuclear should be used in the industrial commercial area. And renewables is actually being diffused, is best suited for actually the rural areas. So rural electrification in the context of diversity, where all types of renewables, wind, solar, low-head hydro, will play a very important role. But having said that, you have to herd the cats. So microgrids become very important. So think of the future, or picture the future where you have centralized plants, where nuclear would be part of the centralized plants, and that the renewable energy sources provide all these microgrids, which then, when networked together with modern IT, will actually make a much more resilient grid. And that's how I see the interplay of nuclear and renewables.